On behalf of Governor Cuomo, I want to welcome you. I'm Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy. I'm very proud to be part of this announcement. Before we get into our comments and start the program, I'll make some acknowledgments of some elected officials. First of all, Senator Mark Grisanti, who we're in his district here today, Senator Tim Kennedy, Senator George Maziarz, Senator Mike Rasenhofer from our state team, from the Assembly Member Sean Ryan, who is his district as well, Assembly Member Crystal People-Stokes, Assembly Member Jane Corwin, Assembly Member John Soretto, Assembly Member Dennis Gaberzak, Assembly Member Ray Walter, and Assemblyman Mickey Kearns. So our state team, I want to thank them for all being here. We also have our great Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz is here. I want to thank him. Erie County DA Frank Sedita is here. Former Congressman Henry Nowak is here. I want to recognize him. Former Congresswoman Kathy Hochul is here. Our City Controller Mark Schroeder is here, and former Buffalo Mayor Tony Masiello. And this is a non-speaking program. The governor will be introducing and talking about some of the other elected officials here as well. But I want to thank all of them for coming, and thank you for coming. This is a phenomenal turnout. We are here to make a very special announcement today. As a former mayor upstate, as a mayor of Rochester, one thing I recognize and appreciate is what the governor has done for upstate New York. His investment in our cities, his prioritization of the upstate economy, which he has done consistently over the last 3 years, as evidenced by we are here routinely. And the city of Buffalo, today's announcement is a great one. It is about one more step that this is a city and a community on the move, and you can see it and feel it. And every time we are here, it's one more step along the way that really makes us all very, very proud. Somebody asked me yesterday, what do you think the biggest change is in Buffalo? And I said, there's two things. We have a governor who gets it, who has invested heavily in Buffalo, who is a huge supporter up here, who is here all the time, who really has put his money where his words have been from day one. And you have a community here. You have elected officials, community leaders, public and private sector who work so well together seamlessly as a team. And I think that's been a great recipe for success. And so moving us along, we have a speaking order. I'm going to bring up Howard Zemsky in a minute. The governor's going to speak, and after the governor speaks, we're going to have Mayor Brian Higgins and Congressman Byron Brown will be speaking here today. So, they will. Did I misspeak? I'm sorry, Mayor Brown and Congressman Higgins, but we will. They'll be speaking following the governor, and it gives me great pleasure. Our next speaker is somebody who I've come to know and have great respect for. He's a co-chair of the Economic Development Council here in Western New York, a great leader, a great business leader. Please welcome Howard Zemsky.
That's a hard act to follow. Good morning. Wow, this is popular. No pressure. I want to, of course, start by welcoming back the governor to Buffalo yet again. He's here so often, you might recall last time we were together, we offered him an apartment in Larkinville. Only thing, my father's moved into it. It is 2-bedroom. I wouldn't want to figure out who gets the bigger bedroom. That's not good for anyone. I need the clicker. Buffalo's on the move. You heard the president say Buffalo's on the move when he came to town. He had this kind of cool way he said it. Do you remember that? So I practiced it. In front of the mirror for like half an hour. It was so utterly uncool. So I won't do it. But you all know Buffalo's on the move. All of you who live here know it's an entirely different place with an entirely different attitude. It's just, been an amazing transformation. And I think in large part, of course, because we're working together, of course, honestly, because of the amazing support of the governor and the state of New York. Our strategy, and I just want to take you through it for a little bit, maybe 10 slides before we turn this over to the main event, is that we're building on our strengths here in Buffalo. We're creating jobs, and we're investing in the future. That's the thread that runs through everything we do. And you're going to hear me talk about that every slide for the next 10 slides, because it's the theme of what's behind all of our actions. Governor, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to build on our strengths and for us as a region to define our own strengths and to allocate the resources that we have won through our planning and through the Regional Economic Development Council process. Since the inception of REDC, we have won $153 million of state support for vital projects in Western New York. So we build on our strengths as we define them, not as Albany defines them. We build on our strengths, the medical campus, the advanced manufacturing sector, 21 colleges and universities, 100,000 college students, the tourism industry, which is, of course, anchored by Niagara Falls and our great art and architecture and parks, and of course, our waterfront. Those are our unique strengths that we build on because we've been given the opportunity to develop our own plan and to help direct state resources to advance the plan. We build on our strengths, we create jobs, and we invest in our future. What kind of jobs do we try and create? We try and create jobs in tradable sectors. What does that mean? You export goods or services and you import dollars and jobs. That's the highest return on our economic development dollar. That's our focus as you see us incentivizing private companies. We want to promote tradable sector jobs in this economy, and you see it all over the place in Western New York. We are so totally focused day in and day out, week in and week out on economic development. We have created, the state has incentivized 2,015 new jobs just in the past 18 months. The state has committed over $51 million, which has induced over $530 million of economic development just in the past 18 months. Economic development focused on tradable sectors with these companies you see on the screen and many others is our highest priority. We have so many tools now to use as we develop the economy and create jobs, building on our strengths, creating jobs, and investing in our future. We have Regional Economic Development Council, which, as you know, has a consolidated funding application every year, priority projects. Excelsior tax credits. Excelsior tax credits have been a huge boost for Western New York. Most all of the incentives that we give private sector companies are Excelsior tax credits, which is why you see regional council projects go to things like entrepreneurship and research and things of that nature on the medical campus or downtown revitalization infrastructure projects. Those projects can't use Excelsior tax credits, but private sector companies do. We know how to apply the dollars to the jobs in a way that delivers the most economic bang for the buck. Not to mention the recent addition of Western New York Power Proceeds, which also supplements our ability to create jobs and build on our strength. We build on our strengths, we create jobs, and we invest in the future. And when you talk about investing in the future, for us, we're talking about changing the whole ecosystem of the economy around here and investing in next generation jobs. Next generation jobs are on the medical campus. Next generation jobs are AMRI and pharmaceutical business. Next generation jobs are Empire Visual Effects in digital imaging. Buffalo Billion is about transforming the infrastructure of our economy, investing in the long term, but in no way compromising the tremendous amount of economic development that we are doing day in and day out that we just talked about. Building on our strengths, creating jobs, and investing in the future. Our strengths, of course, are the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. Think about what's going on there. $173 million Gates Vascular Institute is now open. The John R. O'Shea Women's and Children's Hospital will break ground in the year or years to come, more than $200 million. As a result of the governor's SUNY 2020, University of Buffalo will be moving its medical school in cooperation with the NFTA to the medical campus. In total, more than $500 million of new construction has been completed or will begin shortly. Building on our strengths, creating jobs, and investing in our future. Our strengths include our amazing architecture. It's world-class, 20th century American architecture has drawn all kinds of conferences and tourists. Think about how robust our tourist industry is, not just based in Niagara Falls, which is so important, but also the cultural tourism that we experience in this town. The governor's support for historic tax credit legislation is huge for towns like Buffalo, and the historic buildings are located in the city. We need to focus investment in the city. We've had too much sprawl, as you know. We're focused on downtown revitalization and programs like historic tax credit legislation are there for us that we take full advantage of in this town. Similarly, Richardson Olmsted, we build on our strengths, we create jobs, we invest in the future. Think about the strengths of this building, H.H. Richardson and Olmsted's earliest collaboration in the museum district next to SUNY Buffalo State, building on the tourism business. This is right up our alley of the types of projects that we support and that the historic tax credit legislation helps enable. We build on our strengths, we create jobs, and we invest in the future. Water is our greatest strength. It's our number one asset. It's what defines us as unique from other places. Think about the role water plays. Without water, there's no Niagara Falls. Think about the role it plays in tourism, in green energy, in low-cost hydropower, which helps fuel manufacturing, and in the quality of life, in tourism. Everything we do connects back to that water. And folks, think about how many people we've lost. 20 to 40. They want a cool place. They want a place that's hip. They don't ask themselves, where's the greatest sprawl been? That's where I want to go. They want to go to a vital downtown place. They want to go to an active waterfront. You know that's what they're looking for. We build on our strengths, we create jobs, and we invest in the future. The Maid of the Mist and the governor's support for the Maid of the Mist is a perfect example. In December 2012, the governor reached an agreement to keep the Maid of the Mist here. They reached an agreement which has them investing over $30 million and staying here for at least another 30 years. This is New York State's one of New York State's most popular attractions, certainly our region's most popular attraction. Again, building on our strengths, tourism, over 50,000 people in the tourism sector. Think about how important a decision that was from the governor to really build on our strengths and create jobs. I don't have to tell you, you could look out the window and see our waterfront, and congratulations to everyone at Canal Side and Erie Canal Harbor Development and the city. It's been unbelievable, over 750,000 visitors to Canal Side. Think about how different that is from just a few years ago. And to the congressman, I mean, it's been amazing. And without the state support of Canal Side, these things don't happen. Without the state support of Canal Side and the waterfront, private sector investment doesn't happen. Look at this project, the cranes in the air that you see at Harbor Center. Almost $200 million of private sector investment. And the Benderson project at the former Donovan building, $30 million of private sector investment. I can't tell you how many times the governor talks about leverage. Howard, it's not just about spending state money. It's about taking advantage and leveraging the state investment and turning that into private sector sustainable economic development. And that's what you see here with $200 million of private sector investment, piggybacking the state's investment in the waterfront. Oops. Governor, I want to take this opportunity to thank you because people know that Buffalo's on the move. And you have been the engine in terms of the regional council and decentralization and the support and all the tools that you have given us to help us build on our strengths, create jobs, and invest in our future. And the governor is the person who's willing to tackle the intractable problem. And as you know, our waterfront has been an intractable problem for a long time. So with the next great vision and with the next opportunity to release this community forward, I want to introduce the amazing governor of New York State, the best friend Western New York has ever had in Albany.
Thank you, brother. Well done. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, it's my pleasure to be back. It is a full room. It is my pleasure to be back. And first to Howard Zemsky. You know, Howard, I think you're cool. Isn't Howard Zemsky cool? Let's give him a round of applause. Not only is Howard cool, but he is brilliant in what he does, and he's generous in how he does it. He's been a great friend to Buffalo. His leadership has made a tremendous difference. I know he's been a good friend to the state. He never says no, and the proof is in the pudding. Look at all that's going on, and a big, big thank you goes to Howard Zemsky. One more round of applause for Howard Zemsky. By the way, I'm not giving up on the Larkinville apartment there, Howard. You know, I'll share with your father as long as he doesn't snore. I can't take snoring. Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy, a champion for Western New York. He's been the greatest asset of my administration. With that introduction, he sounded like a president to me. Bob Duffy, pleasure. To your congressman, who you'll hear from in a moment, Brian Higgins, who's been just really done an amazing job in delivering for Buffalo and making sure that his representation actually equates to progress for the people of Buffalo. And talk about waterfront development and a vision for waterfront development. Brian has had it, and he's been consistent, and he hasn't given up on it. And let's give him a round of applause, Congressman Brian Higgins. To your mayor, who's been the steward of a phenomenal period of progress. I'm going to have more to say about him at an event this afternoon and his electoral prospects, but he has done an amazing job. It's a pleasure to be with him, Mayor Byron Brown. And to my colleagues from Albany, the Assembly, and the senators who are here today from both houses and on both sides of the aisle. I want to thank them for their collegiality, their cooperation. The government in Albany is working. It is functioning again. It didn't function for many, many years. It had that annual ritual that you'd see around the budget time every year. Albany's supposed to do a budget, and it didn't do a budget, and people would be arguing about their politics rather than what works for the people of the state. And gridlock has become all too common now. And what gridlock really is in government is politicians putting their political interests before the interests of the people they are supposed to serve. And it's very easy to sit there and give a speech and insist on your Democratic or Republican Party's speech. What's hard is to cooperate and compromise and find common ground and move forward. And that's what my colleagues in the Assembly and the Senate have done for the past 3 years. And I applaud them for it. Let's give them a round of applause. And a little context on today, inspired by Cool Howard's vision. The job one for the state is economic development. It's what Bob and I spend the overwhelming majority of our time on. That's what I work with my colleagues in the Assembly and the Senate. If we can get the economy running, that's the best single thing the state government can do. The mayor will take care of the city, revenues will be up, we'll be creating jobs. So we focus on the economy. And I spent 8 years in Washington at the Department of Housing and Urban Development studying economic development all across this country. When it is done well, it can make a transformative difference for a region. When it's done poorly, it can waste billions of dollars. And in this country, we've had experience with both. The state strategy is very simple. It operates on two tracks. The first track is to reduce the barriers to private sector growth. What does that mean? Get taxes down. Get taxes down. What we've been saying for years is true. Businesses and people are more mobile, and they will shop. And if New York is going to be the tax capital of the nation, you have no economic future as the tax capital of the nation. Businesses and people will move. It is a barrier to private sector economic growth, so you have to get that under control. And that's why we've been reducing taxes every budget we've done for the past 3 budgets. Startup New York is the epitome of that. 0 taxes for 10 years for any new job creation. 0 taxes. It takes that whole reputation of being the high-tax state and flips it 180 degrees. And all the times we've had the same conversation where people say, well, I'm moving, I'm going to this state, I'm going to this state, I'm going to this state, because the taxes are lower. That's gone. Taxes can't be lower than 0. And that's what Startup New York says. Work with a university, public university, private universities targeted for upstate New York, 0 taxes for 10 years. We've also changed the orientation of government. Not only can you not be hostile to the private sector, it's government's responsibility to partner with the private sector. We call it entrepreneurial government. People say, well, that's an oxymoron, entrepreneurial government. Maybe it was, but it can't be. It can't be, because you look at the parts of the country that are doing well, you look at the parts of the globe that are doing well, it's where the government is working hand in hand in a partnership with the private sector. So the first step is reduce the barriers, get the taxes down, change your orientation where you actually reach out and change the culture and partner in an entrepreneurial sense with the private sector. That's the first leg of the stool. Second plane of development is focusing region by region, because there is no one New York State economy. There are different economies in different regions. Long Island has one economy, Western New York has another, North Country has another. And there's very little connection among them, except there's one balance sheet for the state of New York. So focus region by region. That's what Howard means when he says decentralize. We work with each region. And we target specific industries for growth. Tourism industry, great potential for this state in tourism. And we're focusing on that. The dairy industry, the yogurt industry, the beer industry, wine industry. We take literally industry by industry focus on where we see potential growth. That's the second leg, the regional focus and the specific industry focus. And that brings us to Buffalo. There is no region that we have focused on more than we have focused on Buffalo. That's what the Buffalo Billion is all about. A $1 billion commitment from the state of New York to invest in Buffalo. Now, the other regions have noticed that they don't get $1 billion. And in truth, they've noticed probably more than Buffalo has noticed. And they all want to know, well, how come Buffalo gets $1 billion and it's not the North Country billion and the Long Island billion and the Southern Tier billion? And I say because Western New York needs that type of investment. Because Western New York has lagged for a long time. And I don't want to go in to turn around the economy with a little piece here and a little piece here, because you have to develop a critical critical mass. And I want to say loud and clearly, we're coming, and we're coming with an impact that's going to make a difference, and we're there for the long term. And that's what the billion-dollar commitment is all about. And it's also in the state's best interest, not just Western New York, because we are one balance sheet. And the better Western New York does, the more it's contributing to the overall pot that the state serves. So we're proud of it, but that's what the Buffalo Billion is all about. A very significant investment in the Western New York region. And then, as you heard from Mr. Zemsky, that operates on two tracks. There's a long-term track and there's a short-term track. The long-term track is using that $1 billion, how do you transform the Western New York economy from yesterday to tomorrow, from the old manufacturing to the economy of today and tomorrow. And that is a long-term transformative strategy. At the same time, there's a short-term strategy because you plan for tomorrow, but you have to provide today to create jobs today. And the economic formulas that work are economic strategies that invest in the strength that build on the asset. You build on the rock. So you identify the strengths of the region, and you invest in the strengths of the region. And that's what Howard went through. Tourism is a strength. That's why we spend so much time and work with investing in Niagara Falls. That's the Maid of the Mist. That's the Seneca Gaming Compact, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars to Western New York, and we're moving forward once again. We have a sports franchise. Let's affirm the sports franchise. Let's re-sign the bills, 7 years. Let's invest in the stadium. Great geographic location, right next to Canada. Maximize it. That's why we had to spend so much time working on the Peace Bridge, because you can't allow another year to go by or another 5 or another 10 looking at the Peace Bridge saying it doesn't work for Buffalo, but it works for Canada, and doing nothing about it. That's a potential strength. That's an asset. Then you have to build on it. We have great universities. That's UB 2020, great life sciences investment. That's the medical corridor. And we have the water. You have a location that most cities would die for. Being on the water is everything. And it's been an asset that up until now hasn't been fully developed. Canal Side finally is an investment in that way, long time coming. And the Outer Harbor is going to be the next step in the development. The Outer Harbor, as you know, is comprised of several pieces. The Wilkinson Point has been for a long time contaminated and abandoned property. It's been recently transformed into open space that is accessible to the public. 6 acres of the site's been remediated and is now available for development. The second parcel are the port terminals, A and B. They are once the home of the Port of Buffalo. They're currently unoccupied. But they're being worked on, and they have great commercial potential, and we believe there's potential for economic development activity there that creates jobs. And Howard Zemsky and the NFTA team are actively marketing those sites. And if I had to bet, I would bet that Mr. Zemsky and NFTA come up with a productive use for those sites quickly. The Small Boat Harbor, which is the largest public marina in the state of New York. It's home to one of Buffalo's favorite waterfront restaurants, Doug's Dive, that now operates all year round. That is the third parcel next to Gallagher Beach, which is at the southern end of the Outer Harbor. Recent improvements include shoreline cleanup, picnic area, new pier, and boardwalk with adjoining bike trails. We will be taking Gallagher Beach and the Small Boat Harbor and transferring both of them to the New York State Parks Department to make them the first state park within the city of Buffalo. We'll be investing with state resources in both of them. We'll continue the operation of the marina, which has gone very well, and will protect the slip holders who now have agreements with NFTA. But Rose Harvey, who is here, who's the Commissioner of State Parks, will be taking both parcels, combining them into what we believe is going to be a really first-rate state park and another investment in Buffalo and Western New York, and we're pleased and proud to do that. That will then leave about 130 acres for a very large site, which will be planned for a mixed-use development, which will include commercial, residential, and open space, recreation space, passive space. It's a beautiful natural resource that we want to protect and preserve and make accessible to the public, but there's also commercial and economic development potential, and that's also important, and we want to develop that at the same time. This parcel will be transferred from the NFTA to the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, which does this function. It's not NFTA's primary function. Erie Canal has shown how well they work with the canal side projects, etc. This is what they do. This has been a parcel of land that for too long has been removed and undeveloped. Canal side shows the potential of the waterfront. This is going to be the next step in that waterfront development. Again, a long time coming, but it's here now. And we're excited about that, and we want to thank the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation and Robert Joya for taking on this responsibility. And my last point is this. Howard Zemsky said that Buffalo is on the move. Lieutenant Governor said Buffalo is on the move, and President Barack Obama said Buffalo is on the move in a way that is apparently more cool than Mr. Zemsky or the Lieutenant Governor says it. They are right that Buffalo is on the move. And I understand the cynicism in Buffalo, and I understand the skepticism in Buffalo. I've been coming here, working with Buffalo for 30 years. And I remember someone saying to me once in Buffalo, you know, we've had a bad 50 years when it comes to the economy. I get the skepticism. I get that there's been a series of false starts, that there's been a series of promises made that weren't kept. But I also know that any objective look at the facts and the evidence, and you look at what's going on, you look at the cranes in the sky, and you know that it is a different day in Buffalo, and something different is going on. And this is undeniable and real steps of progress. The Seneca deal is real. The Yahoo deal is real. The UB 2020 deal is real. The medical corridor is real. Canal side is real. Gallagher Beach is real. The 130 acres are real. This is really happening. And these are all very important accomplishments in and of themselves. They're even more impactful in the volume that they are in. And they're even more impactful in the synergy among them because they're all pointed in the same direction. They're all working together to show the development on the commercial, the residential side, get that tax base up, get that economic activity up, increase the quality of life, make the central city a place to live as the engine for the region. They're all pointing in the same direction, and they are all working. And they all make the same point over and over and over. Buffalo is not about what was. Buffalo is about what will be. This is not about yesterday, it is about tomorrow. The story of Buffalo is not Buffalo in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. It's what Buffalo is going to be in the future, because Buffalo's best days are ahead of it, not behind it. And you have to be part of it. Believe it. Own it. Accelerate it. Because Buffalo's best chapter is not yet written, because Buffalo is on the move. Thank you, and God bless you.
We have two more speakers. I want to welcome, first of all, Congressman Brian Higgins, followed by Mayor Byron Brown.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Let me just say that, Governor, this is a big deal. Whereas Joe Biden said to Barack Obama upon the passage of health care reform, in a not-so-private moment, this is a big deal. Governor, what you are initiating today is what 4 governors prior to you have tried to do and couldn't do for whatever reason. And as you spoke about, this is also about the narrative of Buffalo, a city that lost confidence and faith in itself. And with your challenges, economic challenges to this community, to turn public sector investment into real jobs, in construction jobs, and a brand new economy, we can't thank you enough on behalf of a grateful community for the confidence that you have placed in us. Thank you for your leadership. Also, as the governor had said, the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority assumed responsibility for the Outer Harbor land, and it really didn't want it. Some 6 decades ago, when the anticipation was that the port facilities would have to be expanded because of all the activity that was occurring along the Buffalo River, the grain, chemical, and steel industry. But the St. Lawrence Seaway opened in 1959, which basically took Buffalo, which was the 8th largest port in the entire world, and we ended up in a water transportation dead end. So those lands were never developed. So the NFTA was holding those lands while also doing public transportation and airport management. The great new leadership of the NFTA, Howard Zemsky, and all the rest of the members, saw the wisdom of turning that property to agencies who have a singular focus. As the governor announced today, State Parks does great state parks throughout the state of New York, including beaches. And we're going to have the newest state park on Buffalo's waterfront because of the governor's vision and Howard Zemsky's great leadership. As the governor also mentioned, 5 years ago, there were no visitors at Canal Side because there were no events, because there was really no public place. And what Buffalo learned over the last several years is the attraction to the waterfront is not Bass Pro or some, external influence beyond our control that we have to redefine our waterfront for us. The attraction to the waterfront, as the governor said, is the water. And that was the spirit from which Canal Side grew up. Public investment, no visitors 5 years ago, no events. This year, 800 events. Almost 1 million visitors come from all over Buffalo and Western New York to the Buffalo waterfront. Because of the success of that, the governor again placed his confidence in the city of Buffalo, and along with the Assembly and the Senate, created a new public space, or actually a public-private space, at the old Odd Block. It used to be a professional sports venue for the NBA Braves and the NHL Sabres, and also an entertainment venue. It's under construction today. It'll be completed next year. It'll feature an outdoor skating rink that'll be 3.5 times the size of Rockefeller Center in New York City, making the waterfront a 12-month destination. It will be surrounded by 12 development parcels from which we will, or 7, from which we will issue requests for proposals for private sector investment, injecting new economic viability into an area that's been economically dead for 2 decades. From that, Philip Slidell, Dave McNamara, the managing partner there, he said at one point, we want to be part of the waterfront development. Well, then demonstrate that. Philip Slidell could be anywhere in Buffalo and Western New York. This November, they will open their new offices in an old, dilapidated state office building, which is undergoing a $30 million makeover, and they have a brand new address. It's called One Canal Side with Benderson Development. From that, and the mayor's great leadership, the Buffalo Sabres are doing Harbor Center. John Cuomo's here and leading that effort. About $185 million investment. I'm afraid to use that number because every time I mention it, the mayor said it just went up. So that's what the governor had talked about. public infrastructure investment, leveraging private sector investment in an area that was experiencing no private sector or public sector investment in the past 30 years. From that, we are creating the land bridge to the more densely developed downtown Buffalo canal side, redoing Ohio Street to a brand new tree-lined pedestrian parkway, which will connect canal side with the outer harbor. And the governor's announcement today demonstrates the next generation of waterfront development at the outer harbor. And as the governor mentioned, we're not looking to create another city at the waterfront. We're going to have mixed-use development. We're going to have some residential, but a very, very generous complement of parks and public places from which we have already opened some. That is the new Buffalo. That is the new Buffalo. And every person in this room should be proud of the city, not only that we've become, but more important, the city that we're becoming. And we owe a great debt of gratitude to the people of this community, multi-generational, transcending geographic area. The people in Amherst and Springville are as passionate about Buffalo waterfront development as they are in Buffalo, because the city and the waterfront defines us as a region. And we were once a great, great waterfront city 100 years ago. And because of the confidence that the governor, this governor, Governor Andrew Cuomo, has placed in us, Buffalo's best days are immediately ahead of us. And with that, thank you. With that, as has been said, recent polling has indicated that 68% of the respondents in public polling say that Buffalo is moving in the right direction. But momentum, economically, is only as good as to the extent that you can sustain it moving forward. Mayor Byron Brown has been the leader of our city. He continues to be. He has a strategic vision for Buffalo, and the evidence of his leadership is all around downtown Buffalo. The governor mentioned the cranes in the sky. So from the water's edge to the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus to the new residential buildings in downtown Buffalo that were old and vacant, historical, architecturally significant, there is new life. And from his leadership, what is growing up in Buffalo is a brand new, dynamic, diversified economy. It gives me great pleasure to present to you Mayor Byron Brown.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Congressman Higgins, for your great passion, your great commitment, and your great work, not only to transform the waterfront, but many other parts of the city of Buffalo. Let's give our great Congressman a round of applause. Wow, listening to Governor Andrew Cuomo describe Buffalo and what's happening and where we're going gave me literally goosebumps. I can see his words on a new television commercial. Can't you? I want to thank, yes. I want to thank the governor for his laser-like focus on the city of Buffalo. I want to thank him. As governor of the state of New York, he could be anywhere in this state. He could be anywhere in this nation. But he has chosen to spend a tremendous amount of time, energy, and resources in the city of Buffalo. He has been here so much. He has been so focused on this community. I am calling him the Buffalo governor. Just a few weeks ago, Governor Cuomo and Congressman Higgins and I were at the tarmac, on the tarmac at the airport, waiting for the arrival of President Barack Obama, where I would soon get a $70,000 increase in pay from the president. Unfortunately, it never hit the paycheck, but for a moment there, I was pretty excited. And we were talking about the waterfront and the outer harbor, and we were talking about how a deal had come together to move our outer harbor forward. And the governor at that time said to us, we're going to do even more. We're going to do something more special for Buffalo. We're going to do something where the taxpayers of Buffalo don't have to pay any direct cost for the maintenance of Gallagher Beach or the small boat harbor. And today, the governor is here with the announcement that Gallagher Beach and the small boat harbor will be a public park, will be part of the New York State park system. Well, what the governor did not say is the cost of that is in the millions, the tens of millions of dollars in new investment in the city of Buffalo. Just another tremendous example of the governor's commitment to this community and him putting dollars to the words that he has spoken about how passionate he is about Buffalo and Western New York. Governor, again, as mayor of the city of Buffalo, I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart on behalf of all of the residents of this city and this region for your great focus, your great commitment, and you putting resources behind everything that you have said. I want to just say one other thing that the governor does not get enough credit for. This governor has also been a great champion of the diversity of this state. And one of the things that the governor has championed, and yes, we can clap on that. And one of the things that the governor has championed is the participation of minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and minorities and women on all of these projects. So as we see the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus growing in the city of Buffalo, as we see downtown Buffalo growing with great support from the state of New York, as we see our waterfront being transformed before our eyes, these are projects that will lift every single section of the city, that will lift every single section of the region, and will have representation from every single neighborhood of this community. And it is because of the governor's great passion, great commitment, and great vision for the people of Buffalo, Western New York, and the state of New York. As the governor said, Buffalo is on the move. That's kind of like the president said it. Isn't that it, Howard? Buffalo is on the move. I have to confess, I practiced that in the mirror a little bit myself. But Governor Cuomo, thank you so much for this announcement today, all the announcements that you have made in the past, and the announcements yet to be made in the future. Thank you all very much.
Folks, that brings us to the end of our announcement. I want to just finish by, first of all, going back and thanking our speakers. I want to thank Mayor Brown, who obviously can say it much cooler than Howard Zemsky. Buffalo's on the move. I want to thank Congressman Higgins for his leadership and passion as well. I want to thank Howard Zemsky, who's done a phenomenal job in his role and his new full-time job with the state, with the regional council. He's a great leader. I want to point out Rose Harvey, our state parks commissioner, is here today, and she is an absolute superstar in her right and is going to do a great job with this new property. I want to thank her. And I just want to close. It's been said so many times, but whenever I hear people question, is the Buffalo billion real, what is happening, I want to thank our governor because I said before, being a lifelong upstater, I've never in my career seen a governor spend more time up here put more investment, more money, and more support in upstate New York. And Buffalo, right on down the thruway, Rochester, Syracuse, and throughout upstate New York. It's what we've needed for a long time. And anyone who does not believe it, I would just ask you, get in your car or walk around. Walk around this city, walk around this community. You can see it, you can feel it. It is happening before our very eyes. It is on the move. It is happening. And the folks in this room are just, led by the governor and his great team, are really leading this great change. So I thank you all for coming and taking your time today. Have a great day. And the most important thing is the governor's momentum here is going to carry over Sunday. The Buffalo Bills, opening day. Go Bills. Thank you.